Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this. Wait, what's it called? Orb on the movements of the Earth discussion series. You're reading that from the
Yes.
title right now. Thank you,
hmm
Bacon. Yep. Um,
hmm
we are here to talk about this series that I am watching for the first time, and I have now seen 3 episodes. I'm sure it says it in the title or description or something. And I'm joined by the great Jarky Bacon, who can give his introduction. So go ahead.
Me, the greatest. We're back. We're ready to, JJK, man, that was so hard to do.
uh,
Orb, not so much.
it took a
Orb, not
literal
so
over a
much.
year to get part 2 of that JJK thing, but yes.
Yep.
So I guess the origin of this is that I actually give you your history. You've seen the show, right?
Yep. I remember when it was coming out, it was like, when a seasonal show comes out, you kind of look at roughly what's going on and you see, oh, 15th century historical fiction about heliocentrism. And I'm just like, what? I love myself some historical fictions, particularly in my anime. We know Vinland Saga, we love it.
Mm,
And so then I watched it. It was on Netflix, and like I think the first 3 episodes were out.
mm,
And then I was like, whoa, this is good. Like, and it was really surprising. It's a bit of a sleeper hit. Like, I think all videos on YouTube probably can get to 5 digit views and stuff like that. But
mm,
generally, it's not something that will pop off massively. But I do think it's one of those new shows that is respected massively. And the most exciting thing about this show, Ari, is
mm.
that it's finished. It was all adapted in one fell swoop.
Wow,
25 episodes. It'll be done when
that is actually
when we
crazy.
finish this.
I had no
I know.
idea.
So yeah, I mean, and it's interesting. There's some things about it and maybe I'll like it more by the end of this, but there was some things where basically I think because I was watching as it was coming out, I couldn't binge my way through it.
Hmm.
And so I think that hampered some of my experience. There's some basically structural issues, but at its core, I think Orb is a fascinating and really, really amazing anime. And
Hmm.
I think I like only put it as like my seventh favorite thing last year or whatever. But
Hmm.
it's one of those things that it kind of hurt to put it that low, even though I'm being quite honest about it. Oh no, I put it as fifth because it had potential to be like a May. Maybe it is, but I love it, but I probably love it in my head more than I
And you
maybe
feel
enjoyed
it.
watching it, even though I've really, really enjoyed it, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. So
No, I understand what
yeah,
you're saying. Um, yeah, I feel like I had something to say about that. What were you? The orb. Oh yeah. I'm firstly. Do you? Is this a manga or a light novel? Do you have any idea?
this is a manga. And
Interesting. Okay.
have you have you at least heard of the 100-meter sprint movie?
I have indeed. I've even heard from you. But yeah.
Yes, it is written, is written by the same artist. And you can actually tell
Yeah.
that the art is quite similar.
Hmm.
Even like some of the character designs, there's like a couple that I'm like, oh, that was an orb. But yeah,
Hmm.
so, and you'll notice from the style where they're quite happy to talk quite deeply and abstractly about certain things.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Which
it is
yeah.
from a mangaka whose name I forget, but it's like one word. It's like Oto or something. I
Hmm.
don't know how to pronounce it, but yeah,
I'm sure by the end
really
of the
burst onto
series
the
we'll
scene.
know. Hmm.
Yeah, really burst onto the scene. Yeah, like yeah. I mean, like it. Yeah, so the manga's original run was only 2 years. It's only 8 volumes long. So yeah, it's like it
Hmm.
had the perfect amount of material to be covered in like a two-course season.
Hmm.
And yeah, so not much to dislike really.
Yeah. I surprisingly knew basically nothing about this, but it's something that I've only ever heard people say good things about. Not detailed things, like I've never heard anyone really say anything, but I've always heard people say like, "Oh wow, Orb, yeah, I really enjoyed that," or "Man, you should like watch Orb, that was a really good show." I've never seen anyone be like, "Eh, it was overrated" or anything like that. So I am curious to see where this goes.
I
Um,
would say that how when people talk about Orb, they do put it next to Vinland Saga a lot of the time in terms of
mm,
like because it's historical fiction, and it's more philosophical maybe.
mm,
I would say they are different, but people would probably be like this is the anime people put if they want to be big brained. But I don't think it's too
mm,
big brained. I think there's yeah, we can kind of talk on this more, but there's
mm.
it'll be interesting to see what your opinions are. But yeah, it's
Yeah. Okay. so I guess I can just start talking about what I thought about this.
Yeah.
So okay, orb. Firstly, I like this a lot. Immediately from the first episode, I got to the end of it and I was like,
Mm.
man, I'm glad that I'm enjoying this because there basically I have a thing when it comes to philosophical media where sometimes I just don't like it at all. But it's more like this is a thing I feel like I've just talked about so much recently, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm like making more unscripted videos now, and it like happens a lot more than I think consciously. But whenever there's like a scene and they're talking about stuff, and it's like a bit more abstract, I find that pretty hard or annoying, and I don't really feel the investment to need to follow it. And the go-to example is like, oh, if the character's like reading out a poem or something, and the words of the poem are like related to the theme of the story, I'm like, I don't care about this. I'm not really gonna pay attention to this. So this show had the potential to be like, oh no, maybe this will be that kind of show, and I'll like kind of tune it out. But the one thing this show has that makes it not fall into that at all is that it's about something super interesting, which is like the Earth and like astrology and stuff, or astronomy and stuff. Sorry, not astrology. Jesus, that'd also be super interesting. We love astrology, but um, uh, yeah. So yeah, so far at least. Like I guess there is a chance. Like there's a big change up at like the end of this, and I'm curious where the rest is going to go. But I found it really interesting because of that. Like the whole, like there's so many elements of this I find interesting. One is the like wonder for our world, which is like a similar thing to what Doctor Stone kind of does. Have you seen Doctor Stone, Bacon?
Yeah, I've seen the first two seasons.
Yeah, as have I actually, only the first two. But that show kind of inspires me to be like, man, our world is like so cool. Like, it isn't it amazing that we discovered all this technology? This show has a similar kind of feel, but more like more grounded, I guess, which is just talking about just astronomy and how crazy it is that we kind of uncovered the truths about our reality through like such I don't know primitive tools initially, and like eventually like kept advancing it to the point where we are now, where we have much a better understanding. And it is kind of it adds to like an appreciation for like, man, how did they do it back then? Like, how did we get to where we are now from where we started? And it is truly impressive. Like, it's not just that we figured out like, oh yeah, the Earth spins around the sun, but it's like we figured out that the Earth spins around the sun and it rotates. It's like, well, how is this possible? Like, that's a crazy thing. Like, there's so many infinite like configurations that the universe could have been in for us to like divine that knowledge, or not divine, I guess the opposite of it. It is kind of crazy. And the show definitely like adds to that. So that's like the first like thing that I think stood out to me from the show. But any thoughts on this, Bacon?
Yeah, I think it's 'cause we moved covered Evangelion recently, and that's another show where it's kind of like we talked about it on that, but like ultimately to like a show, um, even if it's deep, to find it interesting, it must resonate with you.
Mm,
Um, and I mean, I think this is actually kind of talked about in this first few episodes, but there's something about I think for me the combat of science versus religion and how it's portrayed very very genuinely, but also very nuanced in all that I really really love.
mm,
Because if you are, I don't know if you've spent much time like basically like one of the classic examples of like science versus God. Like versus the church in history is Galileo being put under
yes,
house arrest because he was pushing heliocentrism.
that is
But
something
in
I
this
knew.
one, it and it's used quite a bit as like, but like here, I mean, because there's so little like the presumptions they work upon, like they just assume like, oh, the Earth, like one of the interesting views they have is like the Earth is at the bottom of the universe, and
Mm,
that's why it can't move. And there's assumptions they all have that like I don't know a ton about the history, but from what I know, it's a bit exaggerated. Where like at least initially, like Galileo was pushing so hard with this evidence, but the thing is, at the time, some of the church, at least, I don't know all this, but basically, it's scientifically responsible for the church to like disagree with Galileo because there wasn't enough information at the time to overturn the theory.
mm,
You know, if that makes sense. It's
sure.
like it's like in retrospect the church has made it seem antiquated, but actually like this is a radical position that goes against the science of the time. Like they've got so much evidence for their worldview now. It's based upon like presuppositions that like lead to a false belief, but like that's like because they didn't understand like that's why Newton is so groundbreaking because he figured out that the thing that makes stuff fall to the ground on Earth is the same thing that keeps the moon orbiting around Earth. Because
Mm,
the moon is currently falling, it's always falling towards the Earth consistently. Like there's all like that thought process isn't intuitive.
Mm.
And so, like, anyway, I just love like kind of basically like how they start talking about these things, how each character has a view of God, but then it's not like a conventional view, but it still makes sense with their character and their worldview. And then also just the time zone. Like I love, as
Mm.
you said, like it's just an interesting topic. And then finally, I think actually what gets me really into this is the actual like character setup themselves. Like
Mm.
I always forget his name. I think it's Norbatu, the Inquisitor,
Mm.
is is such a great character in this series. And you only he is like there's a lot of good tension
Mm.
basically used with different characters to make things feel tense. Like, are they going to find out who's that Raphael's got it? And that he's got all these notes and.
Mm.
I think there's also assumptions that you come into the series with how the story's going to go, and then they just kill the kid at
That was
you know
crazy, Bacon. I couldn't believe it.
I know, right?
Like I
Like,
was
yeah,
sitting there
it's
and I'm
like,
like, oh, I guess like they just burnt some sacrificial, and it's like 10 years later. I'm like, oh my god, I guess they burned him. That's crazy. But yeah.
yeah, dude. I'll be honest. I mean, I thought for the rest of the series when I watched the first one, like, dude, he's not
Hmm.
dead. He's gonna come back, dude. He's
Hey,
dead.
I
But
mean,
like, they can't.
there's a chance, but no, I mean,
Yeah,
it makes sense. Like it ties in with the idea of like you can't fight against truth, and truth will always prevail. I imagine that's what the rest of the series is going to be about. But it is kind of crazy, which I love.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a bit hard for me to describe. I'm trying to keep
Sure, yeah.
my thoughts to the rest of the episodes because when I'm watching the first one, like, oh, this is a really interesting conversation. Like, I don't know, you've not watched Fate Zero.
No.
I don't think you have. But there's a famous conversation there, and maybe this is for like old gen anime fans, and I got in because I watched it later. But it's literally where like you have all this fighting because Fate is about like basically like a Hunger Games style war where you call upon characters of the past.
Hmm.
So like you might have Alexander the Great and Gilgamesh and King
Hmm.
Arthur. And basically these characters, eventually they're all fighting in this so like tense and battle, and then eventually they just sit down and have a conversation on what it means to be a king and to
Wow.
each character what that means to them. And there'll be points of like that for this series where there'll be just only 10 minutes of conversation. The animation won't be that great. The voice acting will be pretty good, but I'm
Hmm.
just there reading the dialogue, and I'm just like, and I find it riveting. I'm just reading the subtitles. I don't really care what's
Yeah.
going on screen. I'm just like, this is a really interesting conversation, and they have glimpses of that where Rafał talks to, what is his name? Norbatu?
Wait, I have it
I
in my
need to.
notes. No, Nowak or something, right? I think that's his name.
Noark, that's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Noark. And it's just like, oh, what are they getting at here? Like, because it's not super spelled out, but if you think about it a little bit, you're like, that's really interesting. And that's just something that I think tickles my brain. And so, yeah, it's got a lot of stuff that makes it very active. And so
Hmm.
it's basically, I guess my point is like, to bring it all together, like, I find the setting really interesting. I find the actual plot really interesting, and that allows for that, you know, and then within those great characters and like on that kind of surface level to get you invested initially, then it can have these conversations where I'm not bored because I'm quite interested with where it's going.
Hmm.
I think there's an argument to say it doesn't have quite yeah, I mean, I guess we'll probably talk about some maybe the issues I have later, like
Hmm.
next time, but like on that kind of service level thing. But I think consistently the thematic core is very strong. So yeah.
Yeah. I think, firstly, I was thinking when you're saying that, it is funny that it is a manga and not a light novel, because it is like the appeal, like you're saying, for you at least, was the dialogue, um,
Mm.
which is interesting. But
Yeah, I've
yeah.
not read the manga. Mir has,
Hmm.
like straight after, I think also what also helps about this is the soundtrack as well. It's done by
The soundtrack's very
Yuto.
good.
It's done by the Chainsaw Man person.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
you'll
Awesome.
notice that. So you'll notice that, like, it sound they love the marimba when they go, like they use a lot of the same sounds, but you're like,
Hmm.
ooh, I'm thinking here, and very cool, cool
Yeah. Now that you say that,
soundtrack.
I do remember that. That was one of my notes. I said good soundtrack, so we love that. He is my favorite. Oh my goodness, Kensuke Ushio. We is the great Kensuke
Yeah,
Ushio.
yeah.
Um,
Not got a ton of range, I would argue, but
oh my
still
god, what do
very
you
good.
mean? Have you seen Words Bubble Up Like Soda Pop? That was a bit different. Um,
No,
I
I
don't
don't think I
know.
have actually.
I mean, I kind of know what you mean about the range thing, but like if you compare something like Chainsaw Man to I don't know, like Heavenly Delusion, they feel so different. Like the soundtracks. Like I understand, like, there is
Yeah,
definitely some commonality, but like He is
You can
so good.
tell it's him.
You can tell it's him.
Yeah,
That
no,
is true.
that's a very so that's a very uh if you remember my amazing video on the top
I do remember.
soundtracks,
Yeah.
I make a big emphasis on the Vinland Saga, and now I'm forgetting his name, but the Vinland Saga composer, because he will literally do completely different styles, and you live in
Hmm.
you'll watch the anime, you're like, I cannot tell it's the same guy that's done this,
Hmm.
but yeah, that's a bit of a some of the best artists are the ones that you can tell they've got a distinct style, and you just love it anyway.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah.
True. Okay. So, okay, let me think. What have I got on my what okay, let me think more broadly because I actually haven't I finished watching this like half an hour ago, or like 10 minutes before we started
Mm.
recording basically. So, I haven't truly reflected much, but I think idea-wise, like what's shown in the show, to me the most interesting thing was concerning I guess truth and the interfacing with truth
Mm.
and all that. There is a lot of times where what's his name? Raphael or something? It's not Raphael, right? It's
Raphael,
just
yeah.
Raphael.
Raphael.
um there are a lot of times where, or a few times at least, where he's talking about there is a distinction between like what he wants to say and whether he should say it or whether he shouldn't. um there is the whole idea of like they're only words. Like this is an idea that gets brought up a bunch. I'm just trying to think because I truly haven't even thought about it. What does this resolve in, or is it even resolved yet? But I'm trying to think. Like I guess the idea in like initially when you see it is that it is a bad thing to say something that you don't. Is it? No. I think you're. Because when I was first watching it, like going through it, I think I was more on the side of agreeing that it is better to lie. Oh, no, I don't even know. Bacon, I don't know. Because it's better. You end up in a world where people are being burnt alive because people are not able to freely speak their minds. Um, and I think, therefore, that it probably inherently it is a bad thing to not say what you believe, but at the same time, if it gets you by, then it's probably okay. I don't know. It is like I don't have a strong thing here where I'm like this is what it concluded on, but I find it interesting. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
oh, that is a good point. Like his point of lying, then when he then at the end, like says like, "Are you he spends so much of his time like he almost like a bit of like a mini like Yagami, where he's like outwardly he's the best student and all this
Mm,
stuff. He's going to go to university, and then at the end there he's like, "Oh, I accept not living that lie anymore, and instead being actually like truth, like embarking on truth itself, which is not in the sense that he's being his true person. He is like um willing to die so that truth may continue.
mm,
Which is yeah, I mean it's hard for me to say so much, but
sure. Yeah.
I don't know what to say on the themes because it's hard to spoil it. But like once you see it, you see it everywhere. And I'll be honest, sorry, this is also like the
Mm.
first time I'm actually sitting down and trying to really digest. Like when I was watching, I was
Uh-huh.
like, "Oh, this is great," and now this
Yep.
time I like it. I just took it as an opportunity to really like sit down and think my thoughts on it.
Mm,
But there is like even in these three episodes, there's so much. Like when I was, I hopefully put out like a 5 minute scripted video, and I just focus on like one thing, and then how that reflects in our lives about like being emotively motivated first, and then it's kind of like you rationalize things post hoc. It's
mm,
like like there's a lot of stuff about like, oh, I need to be rational, and this is what I do. But there's so many small things about like Rafael being like, yeah, like what he means by truth there. And then he remarks about it being kind of like love, which is
mm,
always like, I'm like, oh, is this a Willibald moment? But
yeah.
it's more like, oh, I'm a bit confused by what he means really. But then he also like early on, like when he says, my life philosophy is being rational no matter what. I don't have time for things like love, and then
Mm,
stuff like that. So there's there's a lot of interesting things that like I feel like you would have to think a little bit about, but
mm,
for me at least, it's not something that like is inaccessible if I actually think about it. While like some things, like some shows, like probably like either Sunny Boy or even like Evangelion, like where they have a lot of like lore, like oh
mm,
the human instrumentality projects. Here's not like no, here's just like no, we've not got other words that represent other things. We're just
mm.
this is it. Like this is what we do. But
You know,
yeah,
I would probably even apply that the Evangelion thing to Vinland Saga when it was talking about love, where I remember being very confused about it. Um,
yes, yes.
yeah, this felt to me this felt much more straightforward. that was the thing. I before we recorded, I was like, I want to go back and watch the scene quickly, and that was the scene I was looking at, the love one, because I was like, oh, this is interesting. I'm not sure I completely get it, but I get it now. I think where he was talking about how
Do you?
like the truth is in this world, truth is like a sacrifice, because there are penalties to like having the truth, but it is worth it. Just like having a family, like love is a sacrifice, but it is worth it in the end. I think that's the point I got at the end there.
Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think yeah. Even with the opening lines of the show, like this show, I think
Mm.
it's not. It does a bait and switch. It's not about heliocentrism. It's about truth.
Yeah, sure.
And how to interact with truth. Because at the start it says, for your work you get wages, for your
Yes.
whatever, and it's like for this you get that, for this,
For
but what
rights,
do
you
you
get
get for truth?
taxes. Yeah. Ah,
Yeah,
I didn't even think
and
about it. Yeah.
and here it's like, at least in this world, and I think it's interesting, but it is hopeful. Um, I mean, this is maybe something that I can make another video on because it's like a completely different topic. But like the idea that truth prevails, there is something that drives Rafał here. That he says it doesn't really matter because I know what Hubert, or whatever how you want to
Mm.
call it. I call him Hubert because it sounds better. But
Uh-huh.
um, Hubert inspired Rafał, and that went against his rationality of wanting a comfy life.
Mm.
And it doesn't matter because he almost what he makes Nowak scared. Why Nowak, this like stone cold killer, scared is that Rafał wasn't scared of death, and he knew that beyond death, the truth would prevail and it would come out, and his material would aid in that. Even if it doesn't, that's
Mm.
okay because at the end of the day, even if his theories is wrong, wrong answer isn't a meaningless one, and
Mm.
that kind of creates this like conviction within him that like, okay, you can try and silence me and shut me up, but like you're gonna like there's an inevitability about truth. You cannot escape it. Um, which
Yeah.
I is a really hopeful message, which I would say it really depends on the truth. I think this goes into a very interesting discussion, but like it's a hopeful message in the sense that we live in a post-truth society where you've got, it's a thing that's been like said since Donald Trump when it came into office the first time, where it feels like, oh, you can just, say whatever you want, and eventually, as long as you don't admit to it and and you always make it he said, she said, as long as you're in a position of power and the people can't actually force to cancel you, like you can
Mm.
get away with it, like yeah, you can't. Yeah,
Well,
it's just like,
yeah.
and that's because that is a historical truth. Like what happened in the past, it's just not inevitable that we will find out. In fact, it's quite the opposite.
Well,
Like,
I would probably
as for
disagree.
instance,
Mm. But go ahead, continue.
okay, let me just finish
Yeah.
my bit. But like as Winston Churchill said, like history is written by the victors. So it's like you get the perspective. Like we think about, every time we look at a Roman source and how they talk about the Gauls and the barbarians or whatever, like we have to remember it's from a Roman perspective, and so they're very biased against it. Like we won't ever get the perspective of a Gaul peasant because it's been lost
Mm.
to time. We can maybe find more truth to it, but eventually it will decay. But there's a difference because the scientific truth is a constant. You can never stop someone from looking up at the stars and seeing with their own eyes what's going on. You can never hide to them the fact and the reality of doing science.
Mm.
Science is not gatekeepable, and I think it may be more now more than ever because to do like, you need maybe a large hadron collider, and that's not the most accessible. But like ultimately, like with Doctor Stone, it doesn't matter if there's an apocalypse, you can still make a light bulb.
Mm.
Like there are things that like you will be fighting against people just using their eyes and looking up at the heavens and realizing, it doesn't quite, it's so complicated. All these that we're at the bottom of the universe and everything orbits around us. What happens? That doesn't feel right. I don't think that's correct because it doesn't make sense here.
Mm.
And then that not making sense, that encourages people to push further. And you can't fight against that. And that's how truth prevails eventually.
Mm.
Anyway, at least that's the idea, which I think is quite a comforting one to us, where it's like, oh man, like like we might feel like, oh, there's not much certainty in our times, and people get away with things that they shouldn't, and like there's no justice or whatever. And but like eventually the truth does come out. So yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, the truth about what's the distinction you could make? The truth about like um reality versus like the truth about society or whatever. Like the truth about society might never be found, but the truth about like
his
reality will be or something.
historical truth is hard because it's a one-off event. It cannot be done again. You know, you can't
Well,
go back in time. Well, we might be able to
yeah,
theoretically, but you can't go back in time and observe the event again.
not today,
Um,
yeah.
but with science, you can. That's the thing. Like you can't not like it's a replicable process, and
Yeah.
so it doesn't matter where you are on Earth. Theoretically, you can take whatever starting equipment someone has and try the same experiment to figure out are they on it. And that's the whole point of the scientific method. And there's that like yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Like it ties in with
that's the difference.
I'm just going to make it about AI, but it's like the same argument people make about AI where it's like, if we don't do it, someone's going to do it. Like this is an
Yeah.
inevitable like fundamental like structuring of our reality where people can invent AI and it's going to happen. Um yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Truth will be discovered eventually if given enough time and enough like interest in it, I guess. Yeah. It is this I did find that very interesting in the show. Like there was a particular point where I think it was when was his name Nowak? Was that what he was? Yeah, Nowak.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was talking about like is that what it was? There was a specific scene where it was like I think it was actually even Hubert where he's talking about how he believes in he definitely believes in God, but he doesn't believe in the scriptures. He believes in
Mm,
like analyze understanding God's work through nature. And it was like that's where the
yeah.
truth will come out, like through analyzing that. And I was like, yeah, that's really interesting. I don't know, it ties into this a little bit, but I like that.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool.
I think that this is another thing I love about like I guess we can go and talk a bit more Hubert, but like this is what I love about it. It's like if like Nowak is almost the godless heathen despite working for the church. It's like an irony because he doesn't
Mm,
really believe in God. He kind of says, "Oh, I just want to be here because I'm doing this because I just want the world to stay the same because that's the world I like and I know and it's comfortable
mm,
and that's good for my daughter." That's like his whole point. Like he's like, "I'm a dad, and so I'm gonna enforce that people don't change the status quo of the world because, yeah, then that unknowability is unsettling to me." Um, yeah, and yeah, and the voice acting with Nowak is amazing. I love it. Probably one of the best
yeah.
voice acting
Is it
performances. Um,
the guy, the famous guy, the Orsted slash Kishibe, like that guy? That's what it sounded like, but I could just be completely wrong.
yeah, maybe.
He voices who's he like most known for? I feel like there's like some voice that he does where I'm like, I know this from this, or
Uh,
I obviously know him as Orsted,
Kenjaro
but
Tsuda.
yeah, that's the guy, yeah.
He did Nanami in
Oh,
JJK.
Nanami. That's probably the first one I saw.
He does Orsted. He does Kai in My Hero.
Kai? Who's
He does
Kai?
Kishibe in Chainsaw Man. Kai is the guy with the mask, the plague doctor.
Oh, yes. Yeah, okay, yes. Overhaul.
He does Kishibe in Chainsaw Man.
Yeah.
He does
ReZero, he
Hannes
does
in
one.
Attack on Titan.
Really? I didn't even know that. That's crazy. Okay.
Uh, um,
He does
I'm
Reinhardt's
looking for the
dad.
ReZero one.
I don't know. Good luck finding it. Wait, maybe I'm thinking of something. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe I'm thinking of my voice actors, but I feel like he did Reinhardt's dad in that. But he's a great voice actor. I love him whenever he's in something. So, yep. But what were we talking about?
Um, yeah, no, Nowak and like
Oh, yes.
how he's ironically the godless heathen. I would also say like I think what I also like about that is like how consistent everybody's worldview is and how transparent they are. So with Hubert, his kind of thing from reading on it, like there's something about him that always resonates with me. But I think what I appreciate, and this is basically the crux of my little video I made, is that he is very transparent with his emotional reasoning for why he does what he does. Like what he literally says, like I don't I disagree with geocentrism because it makes the world less beautiful, and I don't want to live in a world where
Hmm.
it's not beautiful. And that's his fundamental. Like, I just don't want that to exist. It's like a faith. It's his presupposition almost. And then from that, he loves the fact. Like, he loves the idea that universe is perfectly ordered and is perfectly rational, and that's a beautiful thing. It's like an elegant simplicity, and that's what drives him to prove heliocentrism because it just feels right to him.
Yeah.
And that's then why he's like, I don't read the Holy Scriptures because I see God in the universe through the order of the universe. If that makes sense?
Yeah.
Um, and it's almost just like a natural law, this kind of like teleological. It's like, well, the universe is so beautifully made, it's so elegantly simple that almost that would suggest a designer and suggest a god. And it's like, it's not even like a really probably a dogmatic view almost of God, but it's a very genuine one, and I feel like it's probably quite a rational one at the time. Like that's why, like, like, and I think it's still something you can do nowadays, but particularly at the time, like you don't have a ton of reasons for like you don't have a lot of scientific reasons for not believing in God and being like, oh, how did humans get here? Like, what does intelligent life mean? And like, how did the universe even start? Like, there must be a God.
Hmm.
And then because of that belief in like some deist God, not necessarily like Jesus or whatever, but you believe that there is something putting things in order that has designed it, then you then go that kind of then informs his philosophy. And I guess it's just what I like is like he's very, very aware and understanding of what his view is, and I think that's a mark of like wisdom in a character. And I think at least when I come to these debates, like lots of people try and be the most rational, and they think, "Oh, I'm the most rational, so like this is the most rational thing." And at the end of the day, like what convinces you is not your rationality. If someone gives you the most reasonable argument, you have to, you have to, like, you have to desire to be rational first, right? Like you
Hmm.
have to emotionally want to be rational. But then, secondly, there's no reason for you to really think that argument is convincing. Even if it is perfectly rational, there are sometimes you'll hear an argument and you're just like, that just doesn't vibe with me. Like I that just doesn't convince me that your argument is correct. And I think there's a lot of good examples, particularly in the God
Hmm.
debate, where there's like a couple different, let's say there's six different arguments for God, and then you'll find people like tier list them on how good they are, and
Uh-huh.
maybe there's like, maybe there's holes in some and they have good rebuttals and some don't, but there's literally one argument called the ontological argument for God, and even though it's arguably the most surefire way to prove God existence, I don't think anybody's been like convinced by it because it's so like by definition God must exist. It's like
Hmm.
it doesn't change how you think about the world. So let me propose this argument to you, and there's
Oh
going to be loads
boy.
of counter arguments. This is like, but
All right, I'll tell you which
so
one comes to mind. Go ahead.
all right, so the ontological argument is basically the idea that God is the most maximally great being. Like by definition, God must be the greatest thing ever, right? Like the greatest thing you can conceive in your head, right? Like
Well,
he must be
okay.
the strongest, he must
Hmm.
be the most knowledgeable, he mustn't be bound by time, the most powerful. That is how we define God. That is just like a fundamental first thing. That's what in this argument I mean by God, right? Now,
Hmm.
all God must have all the principles of being greater than uh you know like if there's an attribute of God of something that is less good or less maximally great, then he doesn't have that. He has the opposite. So
Hmm.
yeah, like instead of being like weak, God has to be strong. Instead of being hateful, God has to be loving. Because you're not maximally great if you're not the most loving.
Hmm.
Stuff like that. And then the guy then goes on to be like, well, if you think about it, something purely in your imagination is not as great as actually existing in the real world. Therefore, because God is maximally great, he
Hmm.
definitionally must exist. Therefore, God exists.
Okay.
I'm butchered that
That's good.
argument,
No,
but
I
it's a
understand what you're
really,
saying. That is
but
funny.
you get my point. Whereas it's like I'm sitting there in like philosophy class. I'm just like, I literally go to church and I believe in God, but this is like the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my life. It's like, and even if it's
uh,
like perfectly logical, let's just not
well, I don't
like
know if
try
it's
and rip
perfect.
it apart.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
okay.
no, let's just assume even if it is perfectly logical and rational,
Hmm.
um, it's like it's just not convincing,
Sure.
because it's just like
Well, I don't know.
technically God exists.
That's
But yeah,
interesting.
maybe some people will find it, but like how convincing you find an argument is a fundamentally an emotional thing, and how you weight it up. Like how do you even how do you even
Hmm.
like measure a convincingness of an argument?
True.
Sorry, I've just gone on like a massive tangent. I don't know what I'm talking about all, but there's just like so many fundamental things I find really interesting about it. But yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know if we want to talk more about plot things, but um,
that's fine. We can. I don't have many notes, so we can just talk about whatever. But I mean, this is an interesting thing because I think I generally agree with what you're saying, which is that like the majority of the time when you're trying to say that you are being rational about something, you're probably um only doing that because I like post hoc kind of, or like even what's a better way to say it? There's probably a lot of scenarios where being I don't even know how to say it. Being rational, you can say you're being rational, but you're not being rational, and not like a
mhm.
contradiction way or anything. But like you might even truly believe you're being rational, but you're just not. Um,
Mm.
I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. But
So I mean, yeah, I kind of it's in the sense that like the rational thing for Raphael to do is to go live the comfy life at university if he wants to survive life and have a good life, right?
yeah,
But his goals change. Therefore, the rational thing to do is to study heliocentrism and astronomy, because that's what like his intuition fights, like
mm,
what he perceives as the rational fights against his emotional and intuitive draw to the stars. That he finds it beautiful. There's something like innate in that like he can't fight it. You know, despite how rational it might be to go to university, he just can't fight it. Can't help himself be inspired by Hubert and eventually die at the stake. You know, because of it. You know, like
mm.
anyway, that's like the example I think fundamentally the show does give. But
It is interesting because I
yeah,
don't know if I agree with it because like a lot of people say that like this is an argument I don't often have many arguments and this isn't one I usually have but this is one that I hear a lot of people have, which is that they try and fight against enjoying playing games and stuff. They kind of feel bad about playing games because they're like, man, I'm playing a game now, but man, it'd be better if I was like doing something more productive. And I
yeah,
feel like a lot of people fall into that and they think it's rational. They're like, man, like, you know, our life in the future, it's like important and I probably shouldn't be playing games. I should be trying to like better myself or whatever. Um, like, I don't agree with that at all. And they would probably think they're being very rational and I would think I'm being very rational. And it's like, I don't know what happens there. Like, well, I guess we're both trying to be
yeah.
rational, but we're both.
I'm almost I'll do you a even bigger one. I sometimes like, oh, I shouldn't be watching all these YouTube videos because I want to play video games,
Okay, true.
and I should play video games because I won't remember this YouTube video, but I remember this video game I
Uh-huh.
play. You know,
Yeah,
so it's more
true.
worth my time, and it's like a better invest. And when I think about it, I'm like, oh, I really do want to play more Hades 2, but I've just not sat down and done it because I'm like obsessed with like watching YouTube videos at 2 times speed talking about current politics or something, you
Hmm.
know, or like some stupid drama that I don't actually care about. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, I can get that. It's I think at least maybe in that argument it's like this fight of like oh what they feel that what they want and desire in the short term versus the long term, and it's that you know it's like do I have the cookie now or do I be good and you know lose weight for the future for my future health or whatever.
Mm.
You know because I need to lose weight because it's January. Oh,
Mm.
it's actually February now. I lied, but
Yes, middle of February almost.
middle, not even close,
Almost.
mate.
What do you mean? We're
We're like
halfway to the
one
middle.
quarter. We're halfway to the middle. We're 25% through.
Hmm.
Um, we're almost at the start of February as well, actually.
No, we're beyond the start because we'd round up. But true, you're
Oh, that
right.
is true. That is
Yeah.
true. We can't go backwards in time.
Yep.
Oop, I got being with
Yep.
facts and logic here.
True.
Um,
But one day we might go backwards in time and then discover the truth about ancient societies. And I think, you know, it's possible.
yes,
Theoretically, maybe.
yes, maybe. Who knows?
Yep.
Um, but yeah, uh, I don't know if you had anything more to say, like on that, because I have a
On
question for you, Ari.
rationality.
If you've not, yeah, yeah, if you have nothing,
Um,
yeah,
I think there was an interesting part of in terms of orb or like because I have a thing in terms of orb related to this.
yeah,
Um,
go for it.
yeah, there wasn't. It was the whole element. I think you've already like touched on this, but it was the element of the fact that he like Hubert had his notes and he just didn't want to burn them. I find it's very interesting.
Yeah,
Like it is the
yeah,
contradiction of like he know like I think it's slightly different to what you were saying, or at least I think I have a slightly different view, or maybe it's I don't know what it is, but it's like I think you were saying that he sees the beauty. No, he sees the world and sees that in his intuition it is beautiful, and he believes that God must have created that beauty. I think is that what you were saying? Firstly,
yeah. Basically, yeah. He
okay.
believes the world. Yeah, yeah.
I think the thing I took from it was more so that he believes that God exists first, and
Mhm.
therefore, um, he understands that the world, when he's investigating it, his intuitive understanding of the world is that it is beautiful. It has this heliocentric beauty to it. Um, but it's so beautiful and so difficult that it must not be something that humans should understand. It is something that should be left alone to God. That's, I think, the more interpretation I took, where it's like
Oh,
he
interesting.
talks about how um, it was a bit like vague in the language that he was using, or maybe the translations to English or something. But he was talking about how he got the impression that like God was by the mystery of it, the contradiction of the beauty as well as the uncertainty or the difficulty in understanding it or like proving it. It to him implied the idea that God was stopping him, or like it's something that shouldn't be investigated or something. But it's that contradiction of like
Oh.
he finds it beautiful and intuitive, but at the same time he thinks that God shouldn't let, like God is telling him not to do it, but he doesn't want to burn it because he still thinks it's beautiful. And it's like, oh, that's kind of more what
Mm.
I took from that, I think. But also I was
Oh,
ambiguous,
funny.
I think. But yeah.
I didn't have a look back and look at the verbiage of that scene. I should have when I was making my little video, but yeah,
Mm.
that's really interesting. I do think, yeah, I think this is. I will say you'll find this later, and that like where like there are different people that will have a different view of God, and then that feels like, and what it makes sense to you, you're hearing initially, but like that sounds a bit dumb. And
Mm-hmm.
then when they explain, you're like, oh no, they are being very logical. Like from that worldview flows. Like I do agree that I think Hubert probably believes in God first, and then from that believes that the world should be ordered. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
the order of it. It's not like he's gone backwards. So maybe they're like kind of you know, it's like a positive feedback loop.
Mm.
But yeah, it is like and it's interesting because like on the other hand, like you have someone like Rafael who I don't think he really believes in God. He just kind of
Mm-hmm.
does. He doesn't really have like a conviction either way because he doesn't really know like what he believes, and he just kind of just been going to do it because that's the right thing to do for him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anyway, I guess we'll get more into that God stuff later down the line. But yeah,
Just
um,
a quick thing on that, just very unrelated but kind of related, is that I didn't know
yeah.
anything about this going into this. So when he was like the way that Raphael kind of talks and his beliefs and everything are like it's so different to everyone around him that I thought that he might have been isekai or something. I was like, oh, is this like an isekai? And he's like comes from our world or something.
Funny.
But yeah, it's a thought that crossed my mind. But it is funny. He is very different in
Yeah,
terms of like yeah, he might yeah, his belief in the afterlife at
yeah.
least is very uncertain. But
And it's
yeah.
such, and it's like I think also like with anime, it's such a good bait and switch because you're so used to like, oh, here's the young shonen protagonist that's going to
Mm.
grow throughout the
Yeah.
story,
Yep.
and oh no, he's dead, and it's just like, yeah, I love it so much, like as a twist, and I think yeah, like I know we've talked more about the deep elements of, or maybe we could talk a bit about like some of like the more like plot stuff that we thought was
Mm. Well,
cool,
you had a
or I
question or
don't
something,
know.
didn't you? Or did you already ask it?
Oh, I did have a question. Maybe, yeah. So I was going on about I'm trying to think of what's a good topic to talk about with this. But like like so okay, let's do a bit of a self like Ari, do you believe in God? Do you have a strong conviction either way?
I have a very strong conviction that there is no God.
Okay. And you believe that belief is rational?
Wait, do I believe my belief is rational? Absolutely not. No.
Yes.
No.
Oh, you don't think so?
Definitely not. No. If I was rational, I'd probably be like in the middle or whatever, like have no opinion on it. But I have a very strong opinion
Okay,
there is no
okay.
God, and I don't think that's
So
rational. No.
so what are the emotional reasons why you don't believe in God?
I don't have a strong like thing to point to. It's just like a feeling I have. Like in the same way that someone who is religious might or intuitively religious might be like, yeah, I think there's like a God. I feel it. Don't you feel his love and stuff? I just feel that not the opposite, but I just feel like, oh, there's no God. Like it's just a feeling I have very strongly
Mm.
though. Yeah.
Yeah, so you just have this intuitive feeling that there is no God. Is there like any like I guess formative like any reason behind that at all? Where you're just like,
Well, there is like a
I just
path. Yeah. Like because I went to Catholic school. I was raised like Catholic. Yeah, well, yeah, Catholic. I
Mhm.
went. Yeah.
And they taught
Um,
you geocentrism, huh?
No, absolutely not. Believe it or not, but I remember my science teacher was
No, I'm
telling us
just
about
kidding.
how like evolution is compatible with creationalism and all that, and we were like, okay, this is
Oh,
lovely.
based.
Yeah, but I have like a journey of like getting to where I am now, which is like a hardcore like atheist. But I remember one of the things that initially like made me like one of the big things that made me be like, man, do I want to be religious was the first step where I was like, man, maybe I don't want to be religious. And the big thing that made that happen was that we were in like religious class one day and my teacher was talking about how like this is actually related to Evangelion. I didn't bring it up then, but I kind of touched on it then, which is that my religious teacher brought up that in some reading of the Bible, like some verse or some like chapter or something, there is an interpretation that when you ascend to heaven, you lose your individuality, and you become part of a collective whole. And I just
Oh,
thought,
interesting. Yeah.
this is like, if that's true, I don't want to be religious. Like, I will do everything I can to avoid
Mm.
that because I like who I am. And if I lose my individuality, if that's heaven to me, that is not a heaven to me. Like, that is not something I would accept. Like, if this is like the reality that religion like makes you believe, then I would rather go to hell, I guess, than like be put into this world where I'm losing my individuality and who I am, and I'm like that for all eternity ever. And that was like, obviously, I have no idea if that holds up now or if I think about it, but that was a very strong feeling where I was like, I need to,
Mm.
like, there's something wrong here. This cannot be. Like, my religion teacher, who I like was believing in terms of like, man, this is like the person who knows what they're talking about. Like, this cannot be. I cannot exist in a world like this where this is what I believe. And that was like the first step, I guess. So there were things like that across, like,
Yeah.
and from there, I started thinking more like, I don't know, I probably looked into like atheist like positions and stuff, and I don't
Yeah.
know, yeah. But here I am now.
I think that's really interesting because yeah, it's like you'll I like yeah, I love thinking about the reasons why. And I think that's such a good example of like I just like that just doesn't I just like in the same way where Huber proclaims I don't want to live in a universe where it's not
Mm,
beautifully rational. You don't want to live in a universe where potentially you'll lose your individuality at the end of life.
yeah,
Like that,
for eternity.
and
Yeah.
I yeah, and I think yeah, I think that's just such a much more honest way of talking about like the religion. Like I guess like with me because you know my background, but just I guess if audience
Mm,
members, I don't know how many people are going to watch this, but like I grew up in a more hardline Christian background. It's not, I mean, like that we believed in the univocality of the Bible, which is basically like the Bible speaks with one voice. It's like even though it's different done by different authors, they all have the same message if you like think about it enough, and they're
mm,
all links together, and the Bible's inerrant, and all these things, right? So it's a bit more, hardcore. Like you, I was like, evolution and God and creationism can work. I was from that background as well. But I
mm,
think for me, like when I was like, what they call deconstructing, or I was turning away, I was like, yeah, deconstructing my faith. Like for me, I was always hyper aware of the emotions of why I chose to do of why I'm choosing to change my worldview. Also, Ari,
mm.
just put a pin in that thought. I just read that Ken the Suda, the guy who's
Yeah,
Noark's
yeah.
voice actor, he also directed Yi Yi.
Whoa. No, there's no way. I don't believe that. That's crazy.
Yes.
What do you mean? That doesn't make
The
sense.
2000 movie that you gave 5 out of 5 stars, he directed it.
No way. It must be someone with
No,
the same
he didn't
name.
direct
I
it.
don't believe. There's no
No,
way.
he must have been. Hang on, he's an actor and director known for Yi Yi. Oh, okay, sorry, there was a comma there. He's an actor in it,
Okay, that makes way more sense. Okay.
dude. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Sorry, sorry. Anyway, let's go back to what I was talking about. But
uh,
I just know, like you don't see a Yi Yi
that
reference
is
every
true.
day.
Yeah. What a movie. Oh my
Uh,
god.
I need to watch that.
Oh, it's
That's one of
real
Lars's
good.
favorites.
Yeah, it's definitely one of
Yeah,
my
I know.
favorites. Yeah.
Um, anyway, but at least for me, like when I was sitting there, I was like, so why? Because at least when like I've heard so much, it's like, and there's always this talk like in Christian circles, it's like, oh, they don't believe just because they don't want to believe, um, kind of
Mm,
thing. It that makes it sound way more patronizing than it is, but it's this like belief that it's like, being Christian isn't an easy thing. It's like you're always different from society. People do look at you a little funny, and particularly if you take it seriously, they're like,
mm,
oh, it's nice. It's a good thing that you do, but you actually believe this stuff. Like this guy rose from the dead. It's like all this stuff, and it's like, and there's like this conviction where it's like with Christianity, fundamentally, you have to admit that you are wrong and imperfect, and you can't live the way of life. You can't just live to what you feel is morally correct. You have to live to what the Bible says.
mm,
Or like you have to outsource. This sounds bad, but you have to outsource your morality and allow yourself to be humbled that you can be wrong and your morality is wrong and live by God's rules. In a
mm.
way, that sounds very legalistic. I'm not saying it quite right, but there's this feeling where it's like ultimately it sucks. There's something not nice feeling about Christianity. There's a lot of nice things that do for like, oh, you can be forgiven for your sins and you can be remade, and that's very appealing. But but once you get into the nitty gritty, it's not actually that like fun of a religion to be a part of, like theologically speaking, because like because you can never be good enough. You
Mm.
can never be perfect enough, and stuff like this or whatever. But it's like at least how it's framed. It's like, oh, they didn't want to be religious anymore. And in my head, I was like, okay, I want to like at least show to myself that I really gave this a try, but then also be aware of the reasons why I'm actually wanting not to be a Christian, but also why I've been a Christian for so long. Like I
Mm.
like in my head, I was like, like they would say, oh, people don't want to be a Christian, but they don't also think, oh, people do want to be a Christian. Like I'll talk to my mum, and probably like I think if I was to suggest like if I was to suggest what her like fundamental rationale of why she like she believes in God is probably because like a world with a God is ultimately hopeless. Like in her opinion,
Mm.
and she just finds that really depressing that like
Mm.
there is no life after death or something along those lines. And like for me, like the emotional draw is like, oh, my identity for like my whole life, I was the Christian kid at school, like the only one.
Mm.
My relationship with my family is going to change. Like my relationship to my friends is going to change fundamentally. Like all these things are going to shift. Not that they like hate me now or anything like that, but it's just like divorcing yourself in that worldview is uncomfortable,
Mm.
and it causes conflict. And that's why I probably stayed Christian for so long, because it's just like something hard to reckon with and like push away from. And I don't like being I'm a conflict adverse person. And so anyway, it's just one of those things that I was super hyper aware of. It's like, so why do I like want to not be Christian? Well, like for me, I just like intuitive. I just don't see God in the universe. Like I
Mm.
pray and I have no clue if he's responding. I'm sitting there. I'm just like every single time I think I felt the Holy Spirit. I'm just
Mm.
like, I think that's the Holy Spirit, but surely it would be a bit more obvious to me, right? Like, I
Mm.
don't know. Like, it's always this kind of nebulous thing. And then there's also the fact that it's like, every single week I apologize to God for like, not being perfect and like, please forgive my sins or whatever. But I'm just like, this is the same routine and I'm not getting better. So, like, what's even the point? Like, I'm
Uh-huh.
clearly being disingenuous here. I feel awful. Like, I'm not improving, and like of course I'll never be perfect, but it's like, oh God, here we are again. I guess, yeah,
Mm.
I know, like I'm here asking for forgiveness, but then how can I feel so actually genuine about asking for forgiveness? Because I don't really feel convicted, because I'm like, there's no way that I could not do that. Like
Mm.
there's something so fundamental to like at least the Christian doctrine I was built upon. Like one of the things like was idolatry, which is like living like, okay, you can live your life worshipping a literal like statue, which is one of the Ten Commandments. You're not allowed to be
Mm.
idolatrous, like having an idol that you worship and like bow down to. But it's more of a figurative sense where it's like not living your aspect in your life with God first in mind. I'm just like, well, that's impossible because I'm the protagonist of my life, so I always live
Mm.
with myself first in mind, and then I think, oh, I want to put God at first. So then I put God at first. But fundamentally, as we talked about before, I only put God first because I want to put him first. So then I'm
Mm.
still putting myself first, which I'm then just like, well, this is
True.
impossible. And then
Huh.
I'm always sinning. And there's things like that. So, and like, and ultimately I had all these issues, but then eventually I was just like, okay, well, as long as I believe that Jesus rose from the dead, literally, I can't really argue against that historically. So it must be true if a guy literally rose from the dead. And
Mm.
then eventually I just became more nebulous where I'm just like, I mean, maybe, but probably not. Like, it's possible. And I still probably think just because of how I've grown up with it, if you would tell someone it's meant to be like a ridiculously improbable thing, because if other people rose from the dead, RE,
Mm.
Christianity would not work. Like, it has to be just
Yeah,
Jesus and
sure.
only Jesus once. I know there's some other, you know,
Mm.
Bible passages that suggest that people raised from the dead, but like generally speaking, that's how it works. And anyway, it's just this whole kind of thing where it's like, at least for me, like it was, as I said before, it's like super. I'm being super aware that like I have emotional pulls for my positions. I
Mm.
have emotional pulls because I have gay friends, and I don't really think they're going to hell. All right, well, that's one way out of
Mm.
the church. Or, but I really like playing drums in the band, and I can't do that anymore because I'm not Christian. Oh, that sucks. Oh, that pulls
Mm.
me closer towards church. And it's like being more honest about like the reasons why you feel a certain way about things, and
Mm.
that the fact that it is kind of arbitrary, and that while so much of the time, like I grew up in this time of like, we're gonna debate. I'm Richard Dawkins. I'm John Lennox. I'm William Lane Craig. I'm Christopher Hitchens, I'm going to debate whether God exists or not in the public square using reason and well thought arguments. But at the end of
Mm,
the day, every time I talk about someone, it's like no one comes to that conclusion without the emotional reasons first, right?
mm,
Yeah. And I guess also for me, at least at the time, I was super aware that if I then, married or set up my life even more inside and ingrained with the church, it would get harder and harder for me to
mm.
not be part of that just because of the emotional draw. It's not that I'm like going to be like in a cult and cut off from society. It's just like, well, I have a kid that I'm taking to church now, so I can't be having crisis of
Yeah.
faith. That's going to be an issue. And and yeah. Anyway, there's a whole thing there, but like anyway, I just like how it touches upon that, and that just resonates with me a lot
Mm,
in Orb. Um,
yeah.
there we go. Rant over. I don't know if you have anything to say to
No, you
that,
know what I
but
say? I say that was lovely and that was good, and it does relate to the show. So well done, Bacon.
thank you, Ari. I hope
Yes.
I didn't put you to sleep there. That was
No,
like that was a
that was genuinely
Kyle-esque
interesting.
entertainment rant
No,
right there.
I like that.
So
Kyle, maybe he can rant about something boring, but you ranted about something interesting today, so here we go.
okay, nice.
Yeah. Um.
um,
Okay. Now, what do we talk about? I have a few miscellaneous notes. But we
yes,
can.
please
Yeah.
do.
Firstly, this is very miscellaneous, but is this made by Studio Wit or something? This looked a lot like Attack on Titan
Mappa.
season whatever. This is made by Mappa.
Oh, it did. Yeah, it's just the art style, I think.
Wow, that's actually shocking. This is made by Mappa. I never would have predicted that.
Um, Also, it also looks like it because it's like the background is Germanic housing of
That
that
makes sense.
period,
You
which
know the
Attack on
thing,
Titan is based on.
the thing that made me think it was Attack on Titan, like Wit Studio the most, was that I assume they would have used the same assets if that was the case, because in not season one, in the courtroom, it looked like almost to me in my memory the identical courtroom that
Yeah,
like Eren was in back in season one, and I was like, whoa, I guess it's the same thing. Oh my god, but I guess not. But it's very funny.
yeah, and Noark also is like he kind of looks like a couple Attack on Titan characters.
Yeah, true, potentially, yeah. Excellent. We love Mappa. What a great studio. Um, okay. All right, another voice acting question, just meta stuff. Oh my god, I forgot his name. Dead boy, main guy.
Rafael.
Raphael, yes. Is he voiced by Rudius? It sounded like a little bit like Rudius, but I wasn't sure.
Ooh, oh, let's
I
have a
could be
look.
completely wrong though. Like there are a lot of voices that sound like Rudius, I guess.
Yeah, it would be done by a female voice actor,
Mhm.
Maya Sakamoto. Maya,
I'm not sure.
she did Rosalina in the new Super Mario Galaxy movie. What a
Whoa.
goat.
Okay.
Um, she did Tamayo in Kimetsu no Yaiba.
I don't even know who that is, but true.
I
Okay,
think
I'm
she
guessing not
looks like
Rudius.
she's one of the blind. She's the blind lady, I think.
The
Uh,
blind lady. I don't remember my Demon Slayer lore well enough. But okay. Interesting.
I'm scrolling down, signing through reload. Oh, she's in Super Crooks.
What
Interesting.
the heck is that?
Sorry, that was like a kind of bad anime.
Oh,
Oh,
lovely.
she's
Okay.
she's 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 another character in the Evangelion movies.
Hmm.
That's quite a big role.
Awesome.
She's Aerith in Final Fantasy, it seems. Final Fantasy VII.
Mm-hmm. I've heard of that
Uh,
game.
yeah.
All
This
right,
just reminds me I
excellent.
need to play Final Fantasy Tactics. That's all that this reminded me of.
This reminds me that I
Yeah.
don't know anything about Final Fantasy, except there's a lot of remakes. That's it. Or maybe there's
Mm.
not. Maybe there's only one. But it is what it is.
They just remade it 15 times, right? That's how Final Fantasy
Yeah.
works.
I don't know the lore, but maybe. Bacon, isn't it crazy how they used to rely on their eyes for measurements of the universe? Isn't that like
That is
insane?
insane.
Yeah,
Yeah, such a good
man.
point.
Yeah. Like we have like even unrelated to astronomy, but things like electron microscopes like crazy. Like man, like we have like stuff that our eyes can't see, but we can like move the electrons so we can see it in like some abstract representation. This is like super cool. Technology, man. My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about talking about his dad? Not really like his adoptive dad or whatever. Is it his actual dad or is he
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he
No,
like
no, adoptive dad,
but
yeah.
even then, like,
Raphael's an
is it
orphan.
his adoptive dad or is it like a weird situation where it's like it's not really his dad, but it's like someone he lives with or something? I don't know what was going on.
He's an adoptive dad.
Okay, all right, yep. I thought it was interesting. Like, I didn't predict at all that he was gonna be. Like, I thought when I first saw him, like, oh, this is the generic teacher guy who's like, he's very strict and is like the exemplar of like a
Yeah,
person in the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
society. But no, and it also makes perfect sense where you are questioning initially, like, oh, why why is he okay with like taking this guy who recanted and like having him live with his like kid here, and
Yeah,
like it makes a lot of
and
sense.
it's
Yeah.
revealed that he was his student, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, which is cool. I liked it. I like the little subversion. I don't know if we'll ever see him again, like, but maybe not. Probably not. I would
Mm.
assume, but it was cool. Good stuff. What a guy. Um,
Um,
but what else?
yeah.
Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
Ari,
Mm.
what did you think of the OP and the ED?
So the opening, I didn't like the beginning part. I was like, man, this is fine. Like I don't really particularly like it. I don't particularly dislike it either. But then like toward the end, the music changed a little bit and the visuals were more interesting. I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. So I think generally it's like, it's decent. That's what I say for the opening.
Okay, okay.
But the
I would
ending,
say,
go ahead, yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah, go. Yeah, what's the
Oh,
ending? Yeah.
the ending, I loved it. It was awesome. He's like walking for this really long time, and the music is really cool. I love the ending. It's really cool. Now I assume it'll probably
Nice.
change now that there's a new person, but maybe not. I guess we'll see. But
Yeah, I would say pay attention to the OPs and the EDs. You'll probably know
mm,
roughly when to, but pay attention.
okay.
So I would say this. I love the OP on this,
Oh
and
wow.
it's probably because like the animation of the show. I don't think it's actually drawn that well. Like sometimes like
Mm,
the character like I was watching JJK yesterday, your
my
favorite.
goodness.
I was
Yes.
watching the third episode where they just talk the whole episode.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
I was just watching how cool how like well drawn the character faces are. I'm just like,
Mm,
this is so well done. But there's somewhere I'm just like, here, it doesn't really have that 3D, that dynamism that really tickles my brain. But in the
mm,
OP, they're like, oh, we're gonna do like the JJ. You're really right. Where like JJK, I want to say inspired. There's like this kind of like lots of blur, lots of like slow movements that are hyper, really smooth and nice to watch. Like
mm.
different shots. Like JJK kind of inspired that style with its second opening, I think, a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. It
And
felt
it
very
has
good. Yeah.
that kind of style on and that gloss on it. And so the fact that it's made by Mappa, actually, that makes a lot of sense. They probably outsourced that and be like, hey, this one team makes all our OPs. You got to make this one.
Mm,
And so yeah. Anyway, it's yeah, keep paying attention because
mm.
yeah,
Hey, I
because you see a
love
lot of
OVs.
characters in it. But then but then you think about it. But yeah, no, it's cool. And yeah, I like it a lot. I hope it grows in you the song. I guess you could
Mm.
say that it doesn't feel very 15th century, but
That's fine.
anyway.
Okay. Neither does the Vinland Saga's Paradox song. Okay, but we love Paradox. My
No, no,
goodness.
but it's more metal or whatever. So
True.
it
That is
reminds
true.
us of like Scandinavian music or something, I guess.
Maybe
Makes
in some
I don't know.
sense. It definitely does not remind me, but Vinland Saga, what a show. Oh my goodness. What a manga. What an ending. Well, the ending was, it was okay. It was pretty good. Um, okay. I completely lost my train of thought talking about Vinland Saga. But Bacon, what do you think of the ending? The ED?
Yeah, it's good. It's very catchy. I actually didn't like it the first time I watched because I felt like the music was offbeat for some reason.
Interesting. Okay.
But yeah, I like it, and pay attention to the ED too.
Oh,
So
I will. I love the ending. Okay. Hmm. What else is relevant? Let's see. I mean, there was a cool twist where, like, it is the ultimate twist. We've touched on it very, like, I don't know what the correct word is, sparsely in this, but the twist of how you think that he's gonna poison the guy with the thing, and then he poisoned himself. It's pretty crazy. I like that moment where he crushes those seeds and put it in the alcohol, and it's like, wow, that's how he gets out of this. But no, that's not how he gets out of this. That's how he dies. So yeah, but I'll be honest, I don't really have much else. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I think that's it. I guess predictions for next time. There's a
Well,
little bit of a
yeah.
hint at the end of this. Yeah.
So we meet. So it was a weird situation where we're meeting. First, it's a 10-year time skip.
hmm
We have two people who have gone to the research location with the new letter that says apparently Earth on it in some old language. I'm assuming because I didn't know what it was saying. Or was it in English? I just didn't read
Assume
it
it's
properly.
Polish. I think it's
Okay.
Polish.
Okay, that makes sense. And one of them was there at like sword point or knife point or something. So I don't think he wanted to be there willingly. But also, it could just be a thing where it's like, hurry up, you're slowing me down. And it's just like a friend pointing a knife at him. But I don't think that's the case.
Mhm.
So I would assume that, like I said before, I think the point of the show, what I gathered from this ending twist where he actually dies, is that it is about the inevitability of truth like coming out, or like not even that, not the inevitability. It's about the difficulty against or of fighting against something that is observably true. And I think that that will be done by having multiple protagonists across potentially large periods of time. It is cool that, like you're saying, the show is over, because that does give us the potential to explore even like more recent stuff, like this whole show, maybe it will be like the majority will be centered around this kind of period in say like the period of like 50 years or something. There'll be like these protagonists we're going to follow now, maybe the two that discovered it, and then there'll be like another time skip, maybe it'll be another 10 years or so, and then maybe by the end of it we'll have like an epilogue or something. It'll be much more further in the future, maybe like the 1700s or like some like I don't know, like a significant amount of time later. And it could be interesting to see like what how does the show kind of explore that, the idea of like the inevitability of truth in like different eras or something. But I don't know, maybe not. There is also the whole element of how the name of the show is about the Earth, the movement of the Earth, I guess specifically, and astronomy, I guess is the implication. But it is like it is curious where this will go. Like that kind of itself makes me feel like what I just said is absolutely not going to happen, because I feel like we're covering, like, I don't know where you go from here in terms of like once heliocentrism is confirmed, or not confirmed, but like it becomes a mainstream thing, which I think will happen. Like, I guess I don't know the timeline, but I would imagine when does this take place, in this the 1400s, 1500s?
15th century, so 1400s, I think.
1400s. If I were to guess, I would assume by the 1600s, then it's going to be confirmed, like 100%, right? Like people are going to believe that as the dominant thing. That's my understanding. I could be off by a lot. Maybe it isn't like people believe that as like a thing until way later, but so I don't know. But more direct predictions. We're going to be following these two people. They're all going to be our new protagonists. They're going to, I don't know if I get the vibe though that they're not going to be continuing the work. So it could be more of a thing where it's like they discover the research that's being put here, and maybe from that they will maybe try and publicize it more so than trying to discover new things about it. That's the vibe I'm getting from this kind of strange, like we're meeting these two people. They're kind of, one of them doesn't necessarily want to be there, one of them does, and it could be a thing about let's capitalize on this or something. That'd be my prediction. And then it could be a thing about like how it's dangerous to spread ideas that aren't confirmed, and like truth is good, but like maybe you shouldn't be saying stuff that you aren't, like you don't truly believe, like in terms of even if this might be more truthful than the geocentric model or whatever it's called, maybe it isn't good to spread it if you don't actually believe in it, and it's just something that you believe to be true based on stuff you've read or so. I don't know. It could be, that could be interesting. I feel like that would be my guess, is the way this is going. Now I could be completely wrong, but yeah, those are my predictions, I guess.
Yeah, cool. I mean, yeah, there's a lot there. So I mean, I will let you know how much to watch in the meantime.
Indeed.
Yeah. Let me actually have a little quick look.
Yeah, I guess for everyone listening, well, I don't know, Bacon, if you still want this, but the plan is initially to do once every 2 weeks. But what are you thinking? Is that still good, or?
Yeah, well, we're gonna have a bigger episode. Like the 3 episodes at the start was a pretty quick one. So like,
okay.
I'm just trying to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like I think we probably want to go to like episode 11-ish.
Okay.
But yeah.
Sounds good. I guess we can confirm this afterwards, but I guess if anyone, firstly, I don't know if anyone is going to be watching this, but if people are watching this, I would imagine it's people who've seen the whole show, and they probably, I would assume most of them aren't going to be rewatching, but who knows? Maybe they are.
Yeah. And anybody who has watched this far, let us know what thing you emotionally believe about and why. Like, what's your emotional convictions on why you believe or don't believe in God?
Yeah.
And let's be honest here.
Yes.
It's interesting.
And if you're not honest, we'll burn you at the stake.
Use this as an opportunity of self-reflection. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's what all my comments.
Yeah. So we're on episode 3, right? So
yep.
Yeah. Let me
take your time, Bacon.
I think let's watch to episode 9. That's what we'll do. Episode 9, everybody.
Star Wars movie.
Yes, like the final Star Wars movie.
All right. Anything else you want to say, or is that it?
No.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for listening. See you in approximately 2 weeks, and make sure if you're rewatch up to episode 9. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.